Hi, my name is Mr. Chavez. Thank you for joining me for today's video art lesson. I'm the visual arts teacher at Elementary. The first thing that I would like to do is to say hi to all the students and staff. I miss you very much. Hopefully we'll get to see each other soon. I'm sitting here filming in my makeshift studio, which is really just the dining room of my house. In the audience is my dog Paisley. She's actually probably just going to be relaxing on the couch the whole entire time, wondering what I am doing talking to myself. Today I'm going to talk to you about symmetry. When we talk about symmetry, we're talking about balance in a composition. And there's three different types of symmetry that we talk about in art. The first type is asymmetrical balance. Just like in this image, an asymmetrical balance happens when one side of the picture, it has a whole bunch of details and objects in it, and the other side doesn't. Your eye is kind of drawn more to one side of the image in an asymmetrical balance composition. The second type of symmetry is just symmetry. Just like in this image, when you divide it in half, one side of the image has just as much stuff as the other side. So we can say that this image is balanced symmetrically. The third type of balance is radial balance. Radial balance happens around an axis or a point in the middle, and everything is balanced around that. An example might be a starfish or pizza pie or a snowflake. Each one of these three different images are all radial balanced because they are all symmetrical around an axis or a point in the middle. So for today's lesson, we are going to focus on shape, line, color, and the principle of art, balance. For today's project, what you're going to need is a pencil, a paper, bowl or cup, a ruler, a straight edge, or a book. Optional things that we can use are some spices, Q-tips, and coffee to help make some color. Let's get started. All right, let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to need our piece of paper, a pencil, a bowl, and our straight edge. Either a ruler, a book, or a magazine that you can use to make straight lines. I'm going to take my bowl, and it fits my paper pretty nicely. So I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to use this to draw my circle. Holding my bowl down, I use my pencil to trace a pretty good circle all around my paper like this. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to place a dot in the middle. Does this have to be exactly in the middle? No, it doesn't. Just try to do your best. And from here, we're then going to use our book or our straight edge to kind of draw lines through our circle and our dot the best that we can. Once we are done, this is going to start to look like a pizza pie. I'm going to try to make these pieces as equal as possible. Oh, this one doesn't go through my circle as much as I would like. So I'm going to go ahead and erase that and try that again. There we go. Here's kind of the beginning of my radial design. Is each one of these shapes, are these little pieces of pie, the same? No, but I tried to make them as best as I possibly could. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to start to add shapes and details to each one of the pieces on my radial design. If I make a piece like this, then the next piece will also have to have that same shape. So if I start a dot right here, every one of my other pieces will also have that same dot. And so you kind of build out your design from here. I'm going to start off and develop my first shape. Okay, so I've made my first design for my piece of radial art. When I move on to the next one, this is not going to be the same, but it's going to be kind of like if you folded it together, it'll be a mirror image. So I started off with this part on the first one, and then the little dot, and then this like M shape. The same would be right here. But when you get to this part, it would not be that triangle right here, or this little triangle shape that goes right here. It would be this kind of like E shape first. So it kind of comes up like this, and then over, and like that. And then this shape would then come out like this. I would still have that. There you go. And so, as you can see, it's a mirror of each other, right? So this shape kind of mirrors this shape right here. And so when I keep turning it around and continue on, it's going to mirror this shape on this side and kind of make a triangle, a bigger triangle shape right there. Go ahead and continue working on your radial design while I continue to work on mine. Here is my finished radial design. As you can see, if I take one half of my image and I folded it, it should match the other half right there. So these two together, fold it, and it would actually match from one side to the other. Is it 100% perfect? No, but that's okay. I tried my best, and I still like my work of art. Once you're done, you can color in your radial work of art with colored pencils, crayons, and even markers. A fellow teacher, Miss Rangley from McDonald Elementary, shared with me an idea to use some of the spices in my house to make paint. With the permission of your parents, you can use the spices and mix them with a little bit of water to make some paint. Here, I have a couple of spices. I have cinnamon, I have ginger, and paprika that I found around my house. And I'm going to take just a little bit of water and mix the water in with the spices using my Q-tip. This helps to make a thick kind of paint-like substance that I can start to add on to my final work of art. There's that. Just a little bit of water. I kind of am smushing in the spices to make sure that everything is all even. This is only really works with like ground spices. You don't really want to use like dried oregano or something like that. Although you could take the dried oregano and you could mix it or grind it into a fine powder and then mix that in with the water to make a different kind of color. I have a couple of different shades of like brown and red that I'm going to use to then paint in my Radial work of art. Kind of using my Q-tip, I take some of the paint and I'm going to come in and kind of paint this area. It's going to give it kind of a light wash. And if I wanted to, I can also use this in incorporation with some colored pencils or crayons or what have you. Another thing that we can use, and I'm kind of going with the browns here, is some coffee. If you have some really strong coffee, you can also use this to paint with. First off, if you get just really, really strong coffee, the stronger the coffee, the darker the color. You can also add in some water too to make that color lighter. You can also come over it again and again. So I have this kind of like lightened color, lightened brown there. I can come over and if I want to see if I can make this a little bit darker, I'm going to add that darker cinnamon into it. And you can just mess around and try different ways of adding some paint or color into it the best you can. Now it's your turn to make your own Radial works of art. So thank you for making art with me today. During this lesson, we focused on balance and radial symmetry. We used our pencil to make a radial work of art, and then we used spices and coffee from around the house to paint it in. Continue to make your work of art. Share your finished work of art with your family. Tell them what you learned today, and describe to them how your work of art has radial balance, and see where your imagination takes you. I'm Mr. Chavez. Thank you for joining me. Continue making art, and I hope to see you soon.